Patrick Stewart reveals the Doctor Strange mom cameos involving the Illuminati were all shot on their own and decries the experience as frustrating and disappointing. This story comes to us from Spencer Bakuli over at Bounding Into Comics. To the surprise of very few, given the franchise's ever-growing over-reliance on CGI technology, long-term Professor X actor Sir Patrick Stewart has revealed that much of his self-admitted frustration and disappointment comes from each actor who appeared as a member of Earth 3-8's Illuminati in Doctor Strange Mom shot their respective cameos alone and separate from their other castmates. Yeah, that makes a lot of genius. That's a lot of genius, right? It's a lot of big brain, a lot of galaxy brain stuff there, right? The storied stage and screen actor revealed this insight into his most recent Marvel outing while making an appearance on the January 4th episode of Josh Horowitz's Happy, Sad, Confused podcast. Following a lengthy retrospective discussion on the actor's career, Stewart was eventually turned to the topic of his ongoing role as the resident namesake of the X-Men's leader, Professor X, by Horowitz, who, in wrapping up their time together, pressed the guest, quote, "On the X-Men front, I would be shocked if your buddy Hugh Jackman, who is returning in Deadpool 3, that one of his phone calls was not to you. I'm going to guess I might see Patrick Stewart in the Deadpool Wolverine movie." Stewart replied with, "It's come up. There's been a process, but you know the last 2 or 3 years have been so difficult with both the labor problem and the health problems and COVID, you know?" And adding to that, he said, there was nothing sentimental, Horowitz says this. There was nothing sentimental about the way they dispatched you in the Doctor Strange Mom movie. I talked to a lot of actors that were doing the Strange Mom movie. That was a very interesting production. I'm just curious, were you alone? Were you there with the other actors? Do you remember, like, the circumstances of that? In turn, Patrick Stewart replied with a blunt, "I was alone." He says, "I think the big scene in which the Illuminati assemble on screen, I think each one of the leading actors had the same experience. We were all shot alone." Drawing his thoughts on this time as Professor X's iconic yellow hover chair to a close, the actor ultimately opined it was frustrating and disappointing, but that's how it's been. The last few years have been challenging. Notably, Stewart is not the only cinematic Marvel mutant in recent years to have voiced his frustrations with the industry's recent turn to technology over actual theatrical craftsmanship. In an interesting meta-parallel between their respective characters, longtime cinematic Magneto actor Sir Ian McKellen recounted feeling similarly disappointed towards his time reprising his role of Gandalf in the Hobbit film trilogy. You remember that, right? Where he was, in the like director's cut or something, he was crying about being in that big green screen space and none of the other actors with him because they all had to be like CGI downsized. So, recalling his return to his wizard robes during the 2018 interview with the London-based entertainment magazine Time Out, the veteran performer admitted, "I was miserable. It may be my impression, but I don't remember a green screen on the Lord of the Rings trilogy. If Gandalf was on top of a mountain, I'd be there on a mountain. The technology was being invented while we were making the film. I wasn't involved in any of that. I was away acting on a mountain. I tend not to remember the bad times, but I don't think there were any green screens. I think I enjoyed every single moment of making those films." At current, Deadpool 3 and the potential return of Stewart's Professor X, I'll say it right eventually, I promise, is set to hit theaters on July 26th of this year. That's right, 2024. I'm not looking forward to it, and I don't know too many people who are either. But let me know how you feel about it down in the comments below.